this week's program. We're going to be looking at animal health, prevention rather than cure. We're also going to be looking at farm debt and how to get around it. And we're also going to be looking at horse racing. But in just a moment, it's Jim and horticulture. Jim, we're well into spring. Flowering, how's it going?
Oh, it's been a strong flowering. It's been wonderful. There's a lot of fruit setting out there, which means there has been nice warm weather. The bees have been working. Hardly any bumblebees this year, only because the honeybees are out there doing the job.
So how does that affect the bumblebees?
Oh, well, the bumblebees work in cold weather. They don't work in warm weather. So, so the honeybees are out there in the warm weather. I've been seeing bees in plantations and apple trees and what have you at about 7 in the morning going for it. So it's really good. And you can see the fruit setting well, and it's nice shape. You know, they're very small at the moment, but nice shape. So yeah, it's good. There'll be a lot of thinning going on, unfortunately, for the growers. But
yeah, but it's a good sign.
Well, it is a good sign.
We sneaked through without any frosts?
Thus far.
Thus far.
I think when we get past the 9th or 10th of November, we can say, sure, we dodged that silver bullet. So, yeah, we have had spring frosts around the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th of November in the last 2 or 3 years. I don't think we're going to get them simply because we're getting a lot of wind and we're getting warmer evening temperatures. So it is getting cold, but it's not getting anywhere near freezing. What could be the bane going forward, potential hail in a real true El Nino year, which we have got, and or strong winds closer to harvest, which knocks the fruit around on various crops. So let's hope the good Lord helps us this year.
Yeah, well, it's our turn, isn't it?
It is.
Are you worried about withholding periods?
Most certainly are. They're getting harder and harder as the technology increases in the labs and the MRL requests from international markets saying we want them lower and lower. Like we're talking now 0.02 milligrams per kilogram. I mean, that's minuscule, and they're going down to parts per billion and trillion now, not parts per million anymore. They haven't been for quite a while. So growers have got to be really, really super diligent in terms of what they're spraying, when they're spraying it, and if they are definitely allowed to spray it, because the international markets, it's just another trade barrier. Let's not get kidded around this. And I know we're opening up a lot of doors through TPPA and all the rest of it, which is really marvellous. But this is a true trade barrier, and if the market doesn't want the stuff, they'll soon tell you real quick.
As Trump said in his campaign trail, we don't want free trade, we want fair trade.
Yes, absolutely right. And I dare say in some cases that is the case, but in other cases it can be a bit tricky. And it's really amazing how really good fruit can get all the way to the destination and there'll be a fault in it of some sort. But actually it ends up still going on the market. I mean, we won't go there, but that's not fair trade.
No, it's not. How do they do that? They
don't expect Kiwis to jump on an aeroplane and go and chase it, but most do. We're not silly, and we've been there before. So a lot of key marketers, especially in fresh produce, that's probably got a use-by date of 10 days or something like that. They'll follow their produce and all of a sudden just walk in on the market or wherever it may be traded and find that some of the things that have been said aren't true at all. And all of a sudden you have a cup of tea and the stuff goes out the door and you get paid. So, I mean, these things do happen. They don't happen all the time by a long way. I don't want you to get the wrong opinion. But there's not always fair trade.
There's a big difference between free and fair. So
correct.
Fair. Now, ag and hort societies.
Yeah, the Ag Science Agriculture and Horticulture Society had a conference in Lincoln last week, and it was a really interesting conference. And it's about the scientists getting together and sharing what they've done and how we can go forward. And it was specifically around Canterbury and the water that's coming on board. And everybody is fearing that, oh, crikey, we're going to have more dairying and there's going to be polluted rivers and all that sort of stuff. Well, not at all. There's some real good plans out there for an integration of horticultural crops, processing crops, agricultural, arable crops, and dairying to be in harmony with each other, and maybe even within farms. So there's some good stuff came out of this conference, and I do believe in the longer term, now that we are going to get some of this water, the growers and farmers aren't going to throw it away. It's expensive for them. They want to maximise their opportunity. And I think as we improve our logistics, airports, harbours, Littleton Harbour, Timaru Harbour, it's all good stuff for Canterbury, very good stuff for Canterbury.
I always think of Opua, where the farmers fought tooth and nail. And as soon as the dam was there, full of salmon, boating, wonderful times, always had river water, not a word was said.
Look, Rob, over the years, right back to in the 50s when Ben Moore and that scheme was, and the Waitaki scheme was going on. I mean, we had opposition. I was going to do this and what I wasn't going to do. It's all been wonderful, one for farming and two for recreation. So I think they do live in harmony, and going forward, this was exactly what will come out of the Central Plains scheme and the Huranui one when that gets underway. It's going to be really good. There's some really growth potential there for some specialist crop. We're a small nation, and we can't satisfy huge big markets, but we can satisfy niche markets and make some money out of it, and that's what the game's all about, really.
We just don't do commodity, do we?
No, we don't do commodity, don't do it well. I mean, dairy at the moment is an example of that. No disrespect to dairy, but at the moment, you put either milk, liquid milk, or powder out of the international market, and you're not going to get a hell of a lot for it. Put a specialist infant powder or whatever it may be, you start to get some money back. And this is where New Zealand is heading. We are very good at producing specialist crops, and maybe continue to be so. And in Canterbury, I mean, people say to me, I've been working with horticulture in Canterbury now for 30 years, believe it or not.
Say mumble years.
Yeah, mumble years, and hence the grey hair. But, you know, there's a lot more horticulture out there than people understand or visually see. You know, there's 8,000 processing crops out there, hectares of processing crops alone. You know, people see the odd cabbage and see the odd carrot or potato on the way past, and they think, oh yeah, that's good. But there's actually acres and acres of it. And if we can start to really, and I know arable far are working hard, the other industries are working hard to have this harmony and have a mixed and profitable cropping and production going forward. So it's very good.
So do you see an expansion?
I do see an expansion in specialist crops and specialist, you know, sheep and beef. What they do with that product and the dairying going forward. I think that's where New Zealand has to go, and it's going to be a slow evolution, but in time. But if there's one province that is really set up to do that going forward, is certainly Canterbury, with the amount of water we are going to have and we are going to be able to utilise. We're going to have to harvest it, of course. You can extract it and put it down in canals, but you've got to actually harvest it because we want it when we want it, not out in the sea. And yes, the rivers will change, but in time, usually those rivers come back. And I know we have got a lot of polluted rivers out there at the moment, which is a shame. But everybody's thinking about how the heck do we fix them rather than, oh, it's too big a problem, let's just move on. So the whole cycle has changed. I think it's good.
Is it going to be produce that's exported by aeroplane, or is it going to be seed?
It's going to be a lot of both. There's certainly going to be a lot more capacity. Look, we can get a fresh lettuce out of say mid-Canterbury today on a Monday, and that can be eaten on a Tuesday afternoon or a Wednesday at the latest in Dubai or Saudi Arabia. Now, fresh, just like you buy it out of your supermarket. In fact, it's probably fresh.
I was just going to say, it's probably fresher.
So the logistics are there, the systems are there to put these things in place, and sure, there will be greater things shipped too. And of course, that technology is moving very fast too. So it's pretty exciting times, Rob.
It is exciting, and we're right there at the forefront.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, times are tough, so I guess the word is resilience.
Well, I think farmers, particularly dairy farmers, we've enjoyed some very high payouts in recent years, but now we're also experiencing some lower payouts. And the question is, can we farm with both those situations and continue to be sustainable and make a profit? So resilience is about being able to cope, meet your commitments and cope when payouts are really low. And a big part of that, I guess, is managing your level of debt. Comfortably, the farmers probably can handle about 50 or 60% debt in terms of security, and but they obviously need a strong cash flow to be able to keep servicing that debt. And so we wouldn't really want farmers to be looking at any more than 25% of their gross income going to debt servicing in a particular year. But in some cases that's more, and for certain periods of time it might be more. But that's probably a comfortable level. What farmers are wanting to do is still maximise the growth of their equity and taking advantage of gains in capital land values, but also being able to afford to service that debt when payouts are low.
The banking industry's got some criteria, which I assume is basically what you've just been telling us.
Yes, well the banks want two things. They want to They want security in terms of their investment. So I think the maximum they might be prepared to lend on land would be something like 70%. So overall, between your cows and your herd and your plant, maybe a 50% 50% debt would be fairly comfortable in terms of the bank, and then they want a times interest covered, normally about 1.1. They want the gross income to be greater than the amount of debt that you're paying.
A lot of people have been farming for capital gain so that they get their main profit at the end.
Yes, that's still a strong motivation for farming, is that our land appreciates considerably over a 20 or 30 year period, and that's where most of the wealth has come from for farmers. But there's also a focus now on getting sustainable profits just in terms of cash out of the business. So rather than leveraging, gearing ourselves to take advantage of leverage, farmers are now trying to make cash profits out of their business so that they can make a cash return that's positive.
Now we're obviously in a low, but people are learning to farm with low returns, and they should keep that up once the money comes back in again.
Well, that's correct, but we also know that as soon as the payout increases, people tend to spend more, the expenses go up, their expectations go up, they can become more aggressive in terms of borrowing money again. But I think the average farmer will probably learn from this experience that we've had, and that it's a commodity, and although we enjoy some really high prices, we're going to have some lows. And we just have to figure out where we sit personally in terms of our risk aversion as to what we're going to be chasing now.
Communication. We always talk about the importance of communication.
I think so. At this point in time, I know that the banks are fairly busy talking to the farmers, talking to them about their situation. Farmers are looking for solutions and ways that they can do it. And the important thing is that everybody keeps talking so that people know what the expectations are, and they know where they're going, and they know what they can rely on.
There's always somebody in your corner to help, though, isn't there?
Yes, certainly. Lincoln University, we're always dealing with farmers and with the industry. We were out on farm just the other day having a look at some of the developments that are occurring. So Lincoln tries to stay in touch with the farming community and what they're doing. We've got a few hundred students that go back into the industry every year, so there's a bit of an influence from that.
The neat thing is there's a lot of aspects of agriculture that you can get into without getting your gumboots wet and dirty.
Oh, certainly. The industry has lots to offer, plenty of opportunities. Agriculture is a high-tech, highly scientific business, and there's plenty of opportunities for all people, even if they don't want to actually farm. Yeah.
And you've got a lot of students who you're teaching about the financial side.
Yes, I teach farm management, and the purpose is to look at a whole farm system, particularly in our case about the financials and the economic viability. And that's very important skills that students need if they're going to work in the industry or on farm, is that our farming industry needs to be profitable and sustainable.
Straight after the break, we're going to be talking animal health with Nick.
You know that saying, content is king? Well, in today's mixed media world, it's true. You need video, audio, photos and more for social media, for marketing, for communications, sales and for advertising. And you need this at a price that works with your budgets. Well, that's what we do. At Tandem, we partner with you to create the content that you can use to shout to the world or video link to a few. Connect with us and we'll help you connect to the world.
We'll get you thinking, think water.
I think it's all working well, Jack.
My thoughts exactly.
We'll get you thinking, think water.
This is exactly what you need.
I think that'll do the trick.
We'll get you thinking, think water.
It's all looking good. Did you bring the sauce?
I can't think of everything.
We'll get you thinking, think water.
For real ideas and real solutions, just think water.
I've been reporting on farming matters on the radio and newspapers and on television for 40 or so years, but communication, like farming, has moved on. So we've come up with On the Land, online and through YouTube on any screen, anytime and anywhere. Just push play and see and hear what's happening today in our rural community. You'll learn and be informed about the latest and best information farming matters. On the Land, bringing farming information into the 21st century. So join us on our website, ontheland.co.nz.
Be Active begins here in the cold, clean, unpolluted southern oceans of New Zealand. Be Active amino acid biostimulant, natural, 100% pure, manufactured from healthy deep sea fish from sustainable New Zealand fisheries. New Zealand's Be Active amino acid biostimulant, the way the world is growing. Working with nature, good for the plant, good for the planet. Now that's growing for good.
We're living on a planet facing almost insurmountable challenges. Challenges we have to face sooner rather than later. The world needs our energy. She needs our ideas, our passion. It's up to us to change things, make a positive change to the planet, to feed the world, to protect the future, to live well, to be the generation that will make a change. Join us.
Nick, we're clamping down on injured and defective stock being sent for slaughter?
Yes, it's a recurring issue. MPI do from time to time sort of stamp their feet on this issue, and I guess recently there's been, I guess, a number of welfare concerns that have kind of hit the headlines a little bit, and so maybe this is a response to that. But so just making sure that transport of any injured stock is certified is really important at the moment. And I guess it's probably pertinent to clarify a few common issues really. Of note, very recently, just pre-calving is the transportation of pregnant stock, which I guess is a little bit untimely at the moment to talk about, but it's nice just to refresh people's memories.
Well, we can recap on what's happened.
Absolutely, and so obviously needing to destock for various reasons, whether it's financial reasons, talking about payout drops in the dairy sector, whether it's feed issues or tight feed budgets, needing to destock. When we're needing to ship pregnant stock off farm, it's very important to understand the concepts involved, and it's fairly loosely stipulated, if you like, but the gold standard really states that animals in the last trimester of pregnancy shouldn't be transported. There's no hard and fast rule, but what we don't want is animals getting into metabolic issues on the truck, and of course we don't want births on the truck. So quite an important thing to keep in mind. If you have to transport heavily pregnant stock, there's a few hard and fast rules. One is, I would say, probably limit that to less than 2 hours transportation. And if we're talking about dairy animals, supplementation pre-transport with magnesium may help with some metabolic issues. But I think definitely a situation that should be done in consultation with the veterinarian. And if they're heavily pregnant and farmers want to avoid the possibility of potential prosecution by vets at the other end, at the freezing works or abattoirs involved, actually certifying those, getting the local vet to certifying that transportation is a good backstop.
What confuses me a wee bit is that you've got the truck driver who obviously has a visual, and then you get to the other end. I mean, there's a lot of people who can say, no, hang on, that animal shouldn't be coming onto my truck.
Yeah, pregnancy is a difficult issue, and that's why I sort of spent some time talking about it. But in reality, any injury, just play it safe and get a vet to certify it. There is shared responsibility when it comes to prosecution, as far as the MPI are concerned, for welfare breaches, in particular with transport, and that is shared by both the truck driver and the farmer concerned. And there's preparatory issues that need to be done on both sides. So yeah, it's a shared responsibility really.
What are some of the things that need to be avoided? Obviously really skinny ones that you're trying to get rid of.
Emaciation's another biggie, real biggie. Lameness is a big one. So the law is very clear on that, and it states that any animal needs to bear weight equally on all four legs. And so if you've got a lame animal, it definitely needs to be certified by a veterinarian. And it can be tricky. It's often not as clear as you think. Broken legs in well-muscled animals such as bulls, they can trick you quite seriously. They can just look severely lame and limpy and still look to be bearing weight on one leg, and actually then you can get into quite a bit of grief when they get to the freezing works, and the vet at the freezing works inspects that carcass and when it's found to have a broken long bone behind all that muscle tissue, and that can result in prosecution. So lameness is a big one. Cancerising cows, very, very big, and that's very hard to give hard and fast advice on, and my advice would always get a vet involved and to get it certified, the vet to sign a transport certification document. Cancerise, if they stand alone and they're not that invasive, they're okay. If they are invasive and the local lymph gland or lymph node is enlarged, they shouldn't be sent. If there's invasion of the hard tissues of the eye socket with the cancer, then they shouldn't be sent. So it can be, there are some grey areas there, and it's open to interpretation by both the vet at the other end, and I think the safest way is really to get the
just
vet,
to ring your own vet and say, hey, listen.
Vet involved.
Yep.
Febrile animals with a fever, so anything that's been sick, not eating, I think it's probably a good rule of thumb to get it checked out. Any open wounds or infected wounds, they really need to be checked out. So if there's any obvious visible injuries or defects in the animal that you can see before the transportation, my advice is get it checked. And there always is some prosecutions every year, and when they say they're going to stand tight on it and make a point of getting vigilant, they do. So
it's a bit like the traffic people saying it's going to be 4Ks over the limit this weekend.
That's right, yeah.
And it's all really done to protect human consumption and keep us fit.
Well, again, that's open for debate as well. That's the premise, but the big issue is, I think, protecting welfare and welfare standards in the country, and I guess there's both ethical reasons for that. We live in a civilised society, and so making sure that our domesticated animals are treated respectfully is one issue. And I guess very closely aligned to that is telling the world that we're selling to that, hey, we hold animal welfare at a high echelon, we enforce it to make sure that those standards are met, and that obviously maintains market access for us to international market.
We've got enough problems with the World Health Organization without going.
That's right, yeah. And so I think it's a very welfare savvy world we're trading in. Welfare is a major issue for the big retail and supermarket chains in the United Kingdom, for instance, and so these are the marketplaces that we're needing access to, and so I think it's right down to the individual farmer to share that, take on their part of that responsibility and do things right, and the benefits to New Zealand as a agricultural trading nation is collective, and everyone's got their part to play. So
it'd be a very small percentage that were trying to get rid of stock that they should cut the throat of.
Yeah, sometimes though people get desperate, and sometimes poor decisions are made, and sometimes it may not be that mindful that such a poor decision's made. People under stress don't make good decisions. Use the professionals that you know and that are around you to discuss things with and get advice, and if in doubt, just get it certified. That's, as far as transport goes, that's my advice.
Nick, thank you very much indeed. It is very good advice. In just a moment, we'll be talking Racing as Cup Week looms large. Pete, we've got Cup Week looming very large, so everybody in the industry will be looking at preparation.
Yes, that's right, Rob. Yeah, it's heading that way again. At this stage, the whole team sort of looked as though we may get a start over Cup Week. There's 3 days there, so there's nothing really stands out at this stage. As I say, we're heading for.
Pete, there's a lot more people who enter their horses for the Cup than can actually run, so there must be some sort of qualifying scenario.
Yeah, there's a couple of qualifying races leading up to Cup Week. and so if you win that, that's automatically puts you into the cup, even though the rating may be low. So that does help, of course.
In ratings, how do you get a rating for a horse?
That's on your points so far as running first, second and third. That gives you the rating points. So the more times you can sort of run in the first three, it's definitely going to help in your pocket, plus your rating points, of course.
Now, you've got a new apprentice. Are there many people coming into the industry?
Not as many as we would like. It's a hard game, but it can be fulfilling down the track. And we'd like to see a few more coming through. Just got Nicole starting with me now, and she's going to sign up as a probationer. And she's keen as anything to take on this game, and hopefully she does well.
Is there channels that you have to go through, or is it people just rock up and say hello, they want to get involved?
Bit of both, really. This one here was word of mouth, that she was looking to sign up with someone. But there is channels you can go through with the NZTR. They can sometimes find them for you.
I'm interested about your muscle shells. What do you use that for?
Foundation for the horses to stand on and lay on. The sand or the crushed dust we use can get very warm, hot in the summertime, and it's hard on their feet, and it sort of draws the moisture out of their feet, so then you end up with problems then. So the shells actually works out quite a nice foundation.
Now, obviously, we're coming out of winter. We're going into summer, so the ground will change. It'll get hard because we've got a drought coming on. Do the farriers change what they're doing?
This time of year, we start putting concussion plates on horses in front. That takes a wee bit of the jar out of the impact of their feet to the ground. That does help a wee bit. And yeah, other than that, there's not a lot more you can do.
They're worth their weight in gold, though, aren't they? They can fix leg problems amazingly.
Oh yeah, this time of year we're just coming out of winter, you can get a few problems with stone bruises and that sort of thing. So the farriers plays their part in the game as well. Yeah, definitely.
And after the break, we'll be talking irrigation with Tony.
You know that saying, content is king? Well, in today's mixed media world, it's true. You need video, audio, photos and more for social media, for marketing, for communications, sales and for advertising. And you need this at a price that works with your budgets. Well, that's what we do. At Tandem, we partner with you to create the content that you can use to shout to the world or video link to a few. Connect with us and we'll help you connect to the world.
I've been reporting on farming matters on the radio and newspapers and on television for 40 or so years, but communication, like farming, has moved on. So we've come up with On the Land, online and through YouTube on any screen, anytime and anywhere. Just push play and see and hear what's happening today in our rural community. You'll learn and be informed about the latest and best information farming matters. On the Land, bringing farming information into the 21st century. So join us on our website, ontheland.co.nz.
Be Active begins here in the cold, clean, unpolluted southern oceans of New Zealand. Be Active amino acid biostimulant, natural, 100% pure, manufactured from healthy deep sea fish from sustainable New Zealand fisheries. New Zealand's Be Active amino acid biostimulant, the way the world is growing. Working with nature, good for the plant, good for the planet. Now that's growing for good.
We're living on a planet facing almost insurmountable challenges. Challenges we have to face sooner rather than later. The world needs our energy. She needs our ideas, our passion. It's up to us to change things. Make a positive change to the planet. To feed the world. To protect the future. To live well. To be the generation that will make a change. Join us.
Tony, we're into another dry area. How's the season looking irrigation-wise?
Yeah, we're right into it. It's probably a little bit earlier than normal, but you know we're full on into this El Nino weather pattern. I mean, it's strongly westerly, it's strongly southwesterly. We're not getting any easterly, we're not getting any southeasterly weather. It's a long time since we've since we've had a significant rainfall. Everybody's irrigating
throughout the country.
Throughout the country, Hawke's Bay has just, for example, has just suddenly gone from being sweet, so to speak, and bammo, it's really dry in Hawke's Bay now as well. They've had a lot more rain than the eastern part of the South Island. There's parts of the eastern part of the South Island that are really grim still, like North Canterbury is still really grim. Areas up around like the Cheviot area, those sorts of areas, really, really dry. Little pockets of North Otago are incredibly dry. There's the odd pocket on the plains, believe it or not, that's actually in reasonably good shape. Was in reasonably good shape. Odd pockets, yes. So, but if you looked at it in general across the east coast of the east coast of New Zealand now, we're all in the same boat. Everybody's getting high temperatures. Everybody's getting strong westerly type winds, switching from southwest to about northwest. Dry, low humidities, and crops are really sucking water and needing irrigation across the board.
We're going to have enough water?
That is a real concern. The alpine rivers, I don't think we'll have too many problems. You only have to look at the weather forecast every second night, and there's a weather warning for 200 millimetres in the headwaters. That's fine, it'll keep the rivers up. I see the alpine rivers being relatively reliable this year. So the schemes like the Waimakiriri scheme, anybody that's taking water, for example, out of rivers like perhaps the Ngātaroa in Hawke's Bay, get a bit of westerly weather into those rivers. They'll be okay, but the real concern is there's parts of Canterbury where we have very low groundwater levels, particularly south of about the Ashburton River, and pockets of mid-Canterbury between the Rakaia and the Waimakiriri River. They're very similar to water levels that we had in 2005-06, which was the last time we had really very low water levels and high irrigation demand at the same time. It's a product of us coming out of a winter where we've had virtually no rainfall recharge. So there's been very, very little rainfall recharge. In fact, some of the monitor bores that, for example, that Environment Canterbury measure on a monthly basis, they rose immediately after the irrigation season by, for example, in the mid-plains, they rose by about 3 or 4 metres, which is just everybody turning off. Everybody turns their pumps off, water levels rise. They rose about another 0.5 to 1 metre. That's all the recharge we got, where normally we would expect to get 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 millimetres of recharge. And they started falling again before irrigators turned on. So as soon as they turned on, we'd be back to where we finished in April this year. And if you then look at the drawdown that is likely to occur regionally in those groundwater systems, we're going to be very close to having some what we call self-limiting bores this year. So farmers they need to prepare for this. They won't be able to pump what they're consented to pump. So if you've got a consent to pump 50 litres a second, for example, and your water levels get too low, then there's too much head for the pump. So you common term, you fall off your pump curve. And so for the same amount of power,
very painful.
It would be it's going to be very painful, because what happens is that when you come off your pump curve like that, then you end up pumping less water for the same amount of power going into the system than you otherwise could. And you can have other problems occurring as well.
And you put your pump at risk if you get too low.
Yes, if it does get too low. In 2005-06, for example, there were lots of people around that when they started, you suck air. So you get a big drawdown when you turn your pump on, and then it recovers a little bit. But if you start sucking air, then cavitation in the pump will occur, and that's incredibly damaging to pumps. You do not want to see the end result of a pump that suffered from cavitation and water hammer, that type of activity. Yep, it's bad news for pumps. So we're heading towards that sort of potential situation, and the way the weather patterns are at the moment, and the way they are predicted to be for the rest of the summer, at least out until March or April next year, I don't see any let up in the requirement to irrigate to maintain production.
I mean, people are going to start rushing in and using up all their water before they need it for?
Yeah, if ever there's a time, Rob, for people to measure their soil moisture, this is a season when you need to measure your soil moisture, because just about everybody has an annual volume now. You've got X cubic metres that you're allowed to use every year. Run out, you either take the conscious decision to be non-compliant and face the consequences, or you have to stop pumping, because it's either a fine or stop. So if ever there's a time to look at to measure soil moisture, to decide whether you really have to irrigate right now, or whether you can delay it, or whether you're putting on too much water when you irrigate, this is the year to do it. I mean, these are the years when you need to be making some really objective decisions about irrigating, and none better than measuring soil moisture. And that's not a sales pitch at all. That's an absolute fact. I mean, this is a season when because we've started early, because it looks like we're going to go a long time, this is a season where you need to be making those really, really good management decisions.
And calibrate your irrigator?
Yep. There are lots of obvious signs, particularly with centre pivots and linear moves. You know, if you've got, and I saw it last week, if you've got water going on State Highway 1, make sure you turn it off and don't put that water out on State Highway 1. It might not be a big deal, but it's a few hundred cubic metres of water that you're going to save that's going to be in the bank for later on. It's very obvious if you've got sprinklers that aren't working properly. Fix them. Get them sorted. You know, these are no-brainer things to do. You know, everybody's irrigating. They're looking at their irrigator every day now. They know what's working and what's not working. And
of course, it's very expensive, water.
Absolutely. If you're pumping groundwater, or if you're taking water out of, for example, any of the irrigation schemes, no matter where you are, whether it's Marlborough or whether it's Hawke's Bay or whether it's Canterbury, you know, it's costing you $500 to $800 a hectare for your water. It's costing you perhaps $1,000 to $2,000 a day to pump water out of the ground.
Up to $2,000.
I mean, that's money that you could be banking, and water that you can be banking by not using it when you don't have to.
Tony, very good advice. Thank you very much indeed. In just a moment, we'll be meeting a very, very excited jockey apprentice. Nicole, you've just started off as an apprentice, but you've been doing things with horses before.
Yes, I do. I have road track for a year previously. I've had 2.5 years off and worked in retail.
But you decided on horses?
Yeah, well, originally I've had 2 operations on my elbow, which is why I needed to take a break from the horses. Because originally when I was riding last time, I started losing feeling of my right hand, which didn't really help when you're riding racehorses. You kind of need both your hands.
So how do you get started?
And so to start with, you've got to be a probationer. So you've got to find a stable to work for, which I've been working here for nearly 3 weeks.
Oh, you're an old hand then.
Yeah.
How long is the probation period?
So probation's about 3 months, or you've got to have 15 satisfactory trial rides. So it doesn't have to be 3 months. If you can get your trial rides quicker, then that's sweet, but then it'll also take a bit longer as well.
Now there's also the jockey school.
Yes, yep, it's great fun.
And obviously the jockey school teaches you lots.
It does, yeah. So it's all about the theory side of everything, your horse conformation, and you even get to go and cut up animal, horse parts as well. I'm looking forward to that. Not really. But it'll be interesting to see, how it actually works and that.
So as far as riding in races, that's obviously the ambition?
Yes, definitely.
Nicole, what's your advice to somebody who wants to have a go at being an apprentice and end up as a jockey?
Follow your heart, do what you want to do and do what makes you happy. If you enjoy riding horses and being around them, then just do it.
So after the break, we'll be talking to Peter from the Lincoln Dairy Farm.
You know that saying, content is king? Well, in today's mixed media world, it's true. You need video, audio, photos and more for social media, for marketing, for communications, sales and for advertising. And you need this at a price that works with your budgets. Well, that's what we do. At Tandem, we partner with you to create the content that you can use to shout to the world or video link to a few. Connect with us and we'll help you connect to the world.
We'll get you thinking, think water.
I think it's all working well, Jack.
My thoughts exactly.
We'll get you thinking, think water.
This is exactly what you need.
I think that'll do the trick.
We'll get you thinking, think water.
It's all looking good. Did you bring the sauce?
I can't think of everything.
Think water.
For real ideas and real solutions, just think water.
I've been reporting on farming matters on the radio and newspapers and on television for 40 or so years, but communication, like farming, has moved on. So we've come up with On the Land, online and through YouTube on any screen, anytime and anywhere. Just push play and see and hear what's happening today in our rural community. You'll learn and be informed about the latest and best information farming matters. On the Land, bringing farming information into the 21st century. So join us on our website, ontheland.co.nz.
Be Active begins here in the cold, clean, unpolluted southern oceans of New Zealand. Be Active amino acid biostimulant, natural, 100% pure, manufactured from healthy deep sea fish from sustainable New Zealand fisheries. New Zealand's Be Active amino acid biostimulant, the way the world is growing. Working with nature, good for the plant, good for the planet. Now that's growing for good.
We're living on a planet facing almost insurmountable challenges. Challenges we have to face sooner rather than later. The world needs our energy. She needs our ideas, our passion. It's up to us to change things, make a positive change to the planet, to feed the world, to protect the future, to live well, to be the generation that will make a change. Join us.
Welcome back to the program. In just a moment we'll be talking dairying and see how the season's gone at Lincoln. Peter, a change of season. Looking back, how was winter and early spring?
Yeah, no, it's been pretty good to us actually. It's once again it's been quite a dry spring, so we've had very good utilisation. Beginning of spring we were quite short of grass, so we didn't have our target cover, so we were a bit tight at the beginning of spring.
It's been coming away?
Oh, definitely, yep. No, it's been grown. And all the grass that we had has been very high quality, which is helping the cows milk well.
We've had some pretty cold weather in amongst it though.
Yeah, no, it has been cold. It was just a couple of really good weeks, gave us really good growth, so it just sort of caught us up to what we needed. We had quite a long first round. Our first round never finished till the end of September, so we sort of made it last and fed a bit of supplement through that time.
So how was calving?
Yep, no, it went extremely well. Cows were in very good condition calving this year, which has really helped with production now.
And what about the calves? You do keep some replacements?
Yeah, we've bred about 155, so about 25% of of the herd.
And now I guess there's a very strong focus on mating.
Yeah, no, it's all about mating now, so calving's over. So we've done pre-mating heats for 4 weeks now, so just been observing cows on heat. Not that we'll do a lot with it, we don't do a lot of intervention on this farm, so we've been looking at that.
So you keep very much to the natural mating?
Oh yes, we'll do 6 weeks of AI and then 4 weeks of natural mating with bulls, with pretty much nil intervention.
Irrigation?
Yeah, it's full on now, so we're sort of a wee bit late starting and just trying to catch up again, so it got very dry with those strong winds a week or so ago.
The other thing you do, or have been doing, is mowing in front of the cows. Is that approaching?
Yeah, no, we will be mowing. We haven't quite got enough to mow in front of the cows yet, but any genuine surplus will be going to silage, but if we do have a bit of extra grass, we'll mow in front of the cows.
What's the principle of that?
Well, we just help the cows get to residuals really, so because one thing we've learned on this farm is having good residual gives a very good quality grass, it gives good production, so it's just helping the cows get to residuals through that tough stage when the pasture wants to go to seed head, so it gets a bit tough for the cows to eat, so just helping them out a bit.
How's production looking? It's pretty early, but is it looking good?
Yeah, no, production's ahead of last year, so we're about almost 2% up on last year. Cows have been doing about 2.47 for the last 5 weeks, which is pretty good.
Fewer numbers, I guess that's helping.
Yeah, we've same numbers as last year. So last year we dropped back to 560 at peak, and about the same this year. Yep.
What's the percentage of empties? Do you want to talk about that?
Oh yeah, well, our empties at the end of 10 weeks mating's been around about that 12-13%, but that's just for short mating and no intervention, so we'd definitely like it to get better, but we're sitting around about 12-13%, yeah.
With the condition of the cows being good, is that going to help?
Yeah, you'd like to think so. They've, in the pre-mating heats, they've certainly been cycling well. Yeah, it's sort of wait and see, but yeah, you hope for a better result every year.
Now you've got a pretty good sort of system as far as the use of urea and not using very much of it.
Yep, so the farm's got self-limitation. We only use about 150 kgs of N this season, perhaps stretch that a wee bit to 160, 170 if we need it, and just 300 kgs of dry matter of grass silage brought in per cow.
And that's self-imposed?
Yep, pretty much at this stage. Well, our regulations are going to be forcing that and going forward shortly, so yep, that's what we're sort of trying to work to what the new regulations will be, so yeah.
And prove it can be done?
Yes, yes.
And don't forget, they've got a website as well. Now, speaking of things that are important, we've had a lot of feedback about people who wanted to catch up and listen again to the story about Owl Farm. In just a moment, we talk to Doug, who reveals all. Tell me about Owl Farm and what you do there.
Yep, so Owl Farm is a demonstration dairy farm which has been set up as a joint venture partnership between Lincoln University and St Peter's School up in Cambridge. So St Peter's have obviously got the school, they've got a surrounding dairy farm that they've always had since the school's been basically formed, so 75 years old. The joint venture was formed on the very successful Lincoln University demonstration dairy farm, so obviously looking at our main goal is to apply proven research utilising good on-farm practice to become an exemplar in dairy production, economic performance and environmental footprint. So it's reasonably ambitious. It's sort of, I guess, the trifecta of what all of the dairy industry is trying to achieve at the moment. Obviously production, profitability and sustainability, which is obviously a pretty critical one at the moment with changing legislation right throughout the country. So yeah, that's sort of the cusp of what we're trying to do there. We've got on some awesome industry partners, much the same as Lincoln University. So we've got Fonterra, LIC, PGG Wrightson Seeds, Opus, Westpac, LIC and Dairy NZ, so awesome partners that are involved. They financially contribute to run the demonstration farm and are obviously very critical in providing the knowledge and the skills and the capabilities within their organisations to ensure we can develop an all-inclusive sort of a system which does I guess encompass a sustainable, profitable farm system that we're all trying to strive for. So really, really good thing for the Waikato. There's not really much like it in the Waikato. There's a lot of research farms around, but as a demonstration farm, we're absolutely committed to providing, implementing proven research. And I think in this day and age, there's a lot of farmers that have got a huge amount of anxiety with probably the volatility of the global marketplace and obviously some changing legislation environmentally. A lot of people are probably a little bit anxious around what the future holds, so it's really good to be able to provide hopefully some practical solutions which might be applicable to other people's farms around how they can become more profitable or sustainable. That's the gist of it, I guess.
How do you get your information out?
Yep, so we've got obviously our website which is up and running. We have a range of data that we collect on a weekly basis from the likes of milk production, animal health data, pasture production data, nitrogen and fertiliser use data. Obviously climatic is a big one for us in terms of what our growing conditions are like with being our system still predominantly pasture based. So we have that information which we gather weekly, which we upload to our website. We've got a lot of graphs and a lot of visual displays of how we present that information. Similarly to the Lincoln University Demonstration Dairy Farm, we have 4 focus days a year where we try and encourage as many of our sort of farming audience as possible to come along, and we communicate different things that we're trying on farm, how we've gone about implementing them, what they mean for us, what the benefits are, what the negatives are, give them sort of the whole range of that. We work really closely with a lot of our partners in terms of the real professional organisation. Get a lot of them to come in. They use our facilities for meetings, so trying to encourage and educate some of those guys around what we're doing so that they can go forth and I guess spread that message throughout their farming networks. We have monthly newsletters which go out. Obviously Facebook, Twitter's about to be developed sometime pretty soon. So I mean that's our main area really around probably getting the message out there. But we are first year in, and for us a really big part of first year is getting that profile, getting that credibility and building a reputation. So that's really critical for us at the moment, and I guess we've been quite fortunate as well. We've got a really good relationship with the Waikato the Waikato Times. We've got an editorial column in their Waikato Farmer magazine. So those are all really good networks and avenues, I guess, for us to try and get this message out there.
How's the season been in the Waikato?
It's been a pretty challenging season, to be fair. It's certainly been a baptism of fire for me. I've come from an environmental background. I'm a fifth generation off a dairy farm in Rotorua that's been in the family for 5 generations. So the environmental sustainability of making sure that as an industry we can continue for a few more generations is really important to me. And growing up in that environment, obviously the cows and grass side of things, I've always been reasonably adept in having those conversations, but I've certainly learnt by getting thrown in the deep end with this season. Climate-wise, we've had a really difficult July and August. It's been really, really uncharacteristically cold and wet, and so as a result of that, we're probably 200 to 300 kgs of dry matter per hectare behind where we would like to have been. We made a bit of a strategic decision last year to pull our calving date back a week and a half because we've had some really, really good winter grass growth the last couple of years. So we wanted to harvest that quality while it was available. But then obviously this season happened and it hasn't been too forthcoming in that sense. So it's been a bit challenging from the climatic perspective. Obviously the payout's been quite challenging as well, and we have had some staffing issues. Our long-serving farm manager had to resign due to heart issues, so that's been quite challenging, but I guess that's dairy farming and it keeps it interesting. And certainly in seasons like this when you've got climatic factors that are contributing to lower pasture production and therefore lower milk production, we're about 6% behind where we would like to be. And obviously low payout years, I think these kind of years it's as important as ever to hopefully have these demonstration farms where we can take a bit of that risk on that other farmers may not necessarily be prepared to do, and that we can then communicate back what we've done, what worked, what didn't work, so they can go home and obviously try it for themselves.
Big question, you going to make any money this season?
We will make a little bit of money, not a lot of money. We've sort of been in survival mode to a certain extent with obviously our employment, which is a big cost for our business, and we've had to be paying a bit of release staff at the moment, so that's sort of changing our budget a little bit, but we're probably reasonably fortunate. We might not have the same debt loading that a lot of other farms have got, so our working expenses are aren't too bad. They're below what they're around the sort of that $3.60 to $3.80 mark, so we are making money in that regard. We do have debt, but maybe not the same amount of debt as what a lot of other farmers do have. So, and I guess being a farm that is owned by the trust board, we don't have any drawings, so we're not really taking anything out of the farm from a personal perspective. So we will make a little bit of money, yes, but not a lot of money, no.
Now, you're tied up with a school. How big a tie-up is it?
Absolutely. So we're really fortunate to have the school involved, and sitting in the Waikato, sort of, I guess, the stronghold of New Zealand dairying long term. A lot of the actual school role do come from rural delivery addresses, so it's a really good way to be able to give back in that sense. But at the same sense, we hear a lot from government around the shortfall in young skilled people coming into the primary industry sector, particularly dairy, which is obviously a really big earner for us. So it's a really good opportunity for us to be able to work with the students and I guess provide them some genuine opportunities around what happens on a farm, and obviously provide some career opportunities which they might not have necessarily considered previously. So we've already started working with the likes of obviously agriculture and horticulture, but geography, chemistry, biology, obviously the Business and Entrepreneurial Centre, so the economics, accounting, business studies, really, really important. IT, statistics, a really big grasp of the students, and just giving them some really genuine farm experiences, I guess, and as well as obviously the rural sector that comes to the school. There's a huge urban influence at the school, so it's a really good opportunity to hopefully try and encourage some of that probably urban-rural divide that's probably been coming around the last few years. So to be able to educate some of the urban students as well around what actually happens on farm and what we're trying to achieve is a really big positive of what we're trying to do. So I think so far that's been really positive and really going to a great work in progress around how we can further integrate students into that farm and get them involved.
So thanks again for those who wanted to re-look at that item with Doug. Now incidentally, if you have missed something or you do want to see it again, all you have to do is to go to our website, which is ontheland.co.nz, and there it will be under the different categories. I'm Rob Cope-Williams. You've either been watching or you have just missed On the Land, but I will be back at the same time next week. Until then,